The safe area changes in 30 seconds. Be a good hero and hustle.
Do as you're told. Pretty handy with your quirk. Pretty handy with your quirk. Pretty handy with your quirk.
Someone get rid of these guys.
Pretty handy with your quirk.
Of course. I'll improve. It's what you've all been waiting for. An item box appeared.
An open. You will fail. This is take that. It's my turn. The strength I've got. You won't survive. Gotcha. Recovering. Hey. Sure, no issues here. Sure, no issues here. Sure, no issues here. Hey.
Safe area.
Sure, no issues here. Sure, no issues here.
Great. Sounds good.
Do as you're told.
Nice
Go.
chat, eh?
Sure, no issues. Not bad. Hey.
It's no use. I'll kill you.
Hey.
Pay attention if you want to stay alive. I'll master this. You enjoy it. Of course. Hello. Sorry. I'll show you what I've learned. Sorry. With the strength I've got. Of course.
Obey me.
Nice
Not
chat.
bad.
Of course. Hello.
What the? This is bad.
Wait. You like my form?
I'll borrow your power.
It's my turn. Manipulate. Take that. I'll improve. Of course. It's my turn. I'll improve.
Do as you're told.
Of course.
Not bad.
Of course. Hello.
I'm doing everything I can to catch up. This'll work.
New safe area established. If you're not in it, what are you doing? I'll master this.
Let's have a nice chat, eh?
Pretty handy with your quirk.
Someone get rid of these guys. Someone get rid of these guys.
What's close?
30 seconds to the safe area. Come on, answer me.
Let's have a nice chat.
I'm still lacking.
That's right.
Where's my hero?
No, that's bad.
Where's my hero?
Of course. Hello. No, not like that.
Where's my hero notebook?
I'm in a tough spot. My aspirations.
Where's my hero notebook? Where's my hero notebook?
Recovering. Pretty handy with your quirk.
That's right.
That was very instructive.
It's I'll show you what I've learned! You're mine! Got me!
All right. I'll get stronger.
That was very instructive.
This'll help. Pretty handy with your quirk.
Brought to you by Present Night!
Of course.
Hey,
Where's my hero notebook?
this is bad.
That's not what I had in mind. That's not what I had in mind.
Do as you're told. Go.
Stay alive!
Oh. All right.
Where's my hero notebook? Where's my hero notebook?
Oh. That didn't work.
Where's my hero notebook? Where's my hero notebook?
Sure, no issues here. Ready to go.
Of course.
So cool.
Level up.
Oh my goodness!
Where's my hero
Pretty handy with your quirk.
Where's my hero notebook? Where's my hero notebook?
Pretty handy with your quirk. Pretty handy with your
Where's my
quirk.
hero notebook? Where's my hero notebook? Where's my hero notebook?
Not bad. Not bad. Do as you're told.
Problem.
Not bad. Not bad. Not bad.
So cool.
Oh, amazing!
My aspirations.
I'll show you what I've
Nice
learned!
journey.
Manipulate! Take that!
That's not what I told you. I'll get stronger.
I'll improve! Let's ultra! Aim for the target! Wait, what are you doing? Left on the field! We're edging closer to a head-to-head showdown!
I failed.
I guess this is it.
Game, set!